Actually, if I can quickly sort of jump in, Bitu, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you spoke about Dharavi being more efficient energy-wise, largely as you indicated, it's because there are more people per square foot in Dharavi than in your room or my room, etc. So
Yeah.
it's not that they have some secret source which is giving them more energy. Of course, they are reusing things, but literally it's because they live in very cramped conditions, right? That is
Yeah.
the main reason. Just to clarify to Errol and all that, it's not that they have some better technology, just that there are fewer people living per square foot compared to us. Correct? Is that right,
No
Pitu?
doubt about it. That is a fact. That I mean, if six people are using one room as against one person using six rooms, then your energy requirement just by mathematics goes down.
Correct.
But it goes a little beyond that, Ajit. You know, right now, if a study were to be done, and people have done these studies in Dharavi, you'll find that there's an attitude that says that if I can use it, why throw it away? You know, and uh,
That I agree with. Yeah, the reusable, I agree with that. Absolutely.
yeah, and there's a flip to this coin. You know, at this moment in time, irrespective of what I'm paying for my water, which comes to me transported from 100 kilometers away, and then is pumped up to my roof and supplied to my kitchen and my washrooms, etc. In Dharavi, they pay between 10 and 15 times the amount that I pay for water because they're buying it from people who they're the mafia for water.
Yeah.
There's a tap there. So the guy says, okay, you give me this much, it's 1 rupee a bucket, say. Now, a bucket of water, 1 rupee, you get the picture, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
and that almost exists in all resources that they need to use.
So, getting to the question that Errol asked rightly about the urban density and urban planning. So, if you look at the US, for example, or even Europe, but they have very few large cities with large populations. I've often told my American friends when they ask me about India, I say, imagine if you were to blindfold me and you put a map of the US and you gave me a dart and said, Ajit, throw the dart on the map of the US. Wherever it lands, right, that's where you have to live for the rest of your life. You know, chances are I love Florida, I love swimming in the ocean. I will aim for Florida. If I miss and I end up somewhere else, I'll still be happy. If I took a
Yeah.
map of India and you told me, take a dart, throw the map on India, throw the dart on the map, and wherever it lands on the map of India, that's where you have to spend the rest of your life. I've never cheated in my life, but I'll be very tempted to cheat and make sure that I literally end up at the southern end of Bombay, west of the Churchgate railway tracks, effectively, right? So, that's the
I love
difference,
it.
right? When you look at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
opportunities of where you
Yeah.
can make a
Yeah.
living, you end up anywhere in America or Europe. Of course, now you have internet connections, but gas connections, service stations, it's all there. It's plug and start living. That's not there in India. So just to give a bit of color to that so if we actually designed cities and urban planning was more diffused, then rather than spending $3 billion on a coastal road, if they used it to build up infrastructure in smaller towns across Maharashtra, you'd probably have a better population spread, and also happier people.
I'll drink to that one.
Single malt or the rum?
Well, whatever is available, the single malt I won't refuse.
Okay.
You know, it's a very it's a question that could have 15 answers. But we work, let's say that, you know, this tiger, it's been painted by a guy who lives in a place called Ranthambore. They used to feed the tourism industry in Agra. They take a one hair brush and they take old Mughal paintings and they turn them into large works of art, and that was their living. Now in Ranthambore, we turn them into this, and suddenly you've got the Ranthambore School of Art. And what we do is we go to 45 villages around the tiger reserve, and we are talking to them about how biodiversity can actually turn into an asset for them, which is currently a liability. In rural India, as in Dharavi, people are loath to waste. The only real waste that you see will be plastic waste. Most of the other things will be reused and reused and reused and reused again. They do not, in the psyche of Indian people and India, in the village particularly, they do not like to waste. I mean, they will not take 12 paper napkins, use one and throw 11 away, or you get the drift. So in rural India, the pollution is of a different type. The pollution is caused by urban India, because what we're doing is that we're growing food, and we're insisting that the productivity be such that you put in chemical pesticides and chemical fertilizers, and these are dangerous to their health. They're dangerous to the aquifers. Children who suffer damage don't know why they're suffering the damage. There's very little they can do on their own to really pollute. Very little, unless it's been inspired by those people who want more from rural India than rural India should, or the soils of rural India should give. This goes for their lakes, this goes for their rivers, that goes for their lands, their soils. We need to have a different attitude. And I don't see human nature changing, on a dime, but I do see us being forced to kneel, particularly those of us who have a dependency on a high degree of consumption. I have a very good friend called Claude Alvarez. He's a philosopher, but he's everything that you can imagine. I mean, he's doctor, you know, he says there are two ways for you to get rich. One, make a lot of money, and the second is don't want too much. If you're happy with less, you're as rich as the richest guy. I mean, it's not, but this doesn't work if your stomach is empty and your child is sick and you don't have the simplest of medicines to give the child. So there's this thing called resource equity and climate justice. These are now economic issues. These are not social issues, which are just a question of the ethics. Errol is a good guy. He does this. Ajit is a horrible guy. He doesn't do this. Bittu is the worst of the lot. Look what he's doing. Nature doesn't care. The consequences will be democratically distributed, but the resources are very, very selectively cornered. This is bad economics, because it's replacing good economics is being replaced by good short-term economics. Good short-term is in quotes, that I take away a river, I take away a forest, leaving those people to their own devices, junk it, then move to another forest. It's like the scorched earth policy. It's like, it won't work too long. We're too close to the precipice now, Jeff. We're too close. I don't think we've got 10 years. I think we've got 3, 4, 5 years within which, through some magic, we have to make things happen. And I want young people to force my generation and say that, look, the age of colonization is over, and intergenerational colonization, don't pass it off as good economics right now. Don't come to my house, take my painting, sell it, and then give me a morsel of food and say, look, I fed you. In rural India, as I said, nothing goes waste. And urban India, instead of exporting our attitudes of happiness with frugality, we've imported false ambition. So in India too, very slowly over the last 30 years, built-in obsolescence has come in. Your keyboard, since your keyboard will not last beyond so many things, then why make the rest of your computer such that it'll last for 20 years? Besides, that's bad for business. So I don't have very specific, very direct answers to give you, Errol, but I think the picture is clear. Urban India and rural India, there is a vast difference in attitudes. Many of the people from rural India who come to urban India, they get the habits that we have, they take them back, and to a large extent, they're eroding self-sufficiency in rural India. But that's our fault. That wasn't their fault.